Boy, do I have a lot to talk about with State Senator Jay Costa joining us now on the Metropolitan Window video screen. Click on kdkradio.com and click on KDK Watch. Jay, great to have you here. Before we talk about all the madness of the cuts and how it's affecting people in Pennsylvania in a big way, the site of the former coal-fired Homer City generating plant, a development, $10 billion artificial intelligence data center, and a huge on-site natural gas-fired power plant. That is good news, is it not?
It is good news. It demonstrates that we have the ability to have Pennsylvania, particularly Western PA, positioned well to develop these electric energy generation plants. And what's nice about this is utilizing a former facility for a more cleaner process to be able to create energy. And as you mentioned, it's going to grow a number of jobs over the course of the years. And we're excited about it. And it allows Pennsylvania to move forward in developing our role in the energy space to be able to deal with the AI things that are coming on, being able to power the data centers and things of that nature. So this is exciting news, and it allows the opportunity for some of the programming that Governor Shapiro has been talking about through his Lightning Plan, particularly the tax credit program, similar to what we did with the Cracker Plan in Beaver County, as you know, Rob. This is another opportunity along those lines and hopefully help facilitate more conversations in this space. But this is good news. I know there's more details that have to come. Certainly, we want to reserve judgment until we see all the details of what's going to happen. But I think this is an example of what we can do here in Pennsylvania to position us well to continue to be at the forefront of exporting energy and also making sure we have sufficient amount to power some of these centers that we need to have here in Pennsylvania to address what's coming in terms of the electric generation.
All right, listen, you were one of the only few politicians who would actually go on record and talk about it. So I got to ask you, because of the latest news saying that Nippon has maybe upped the ante by $7 billion, and the majority of that going into the Mon Valley on top of the just under $3 billion. So we're looking at around $10 billion, another $10 billion figure that could actually go into the Mon Valley if the Nippon U.S. Steel partnership is formed. Any more thoughts on that before we talk tariffs and cuts? Go ahead.
No, I think it's important that those conversations are taking place, and to the extent that we're able to continue to work to reach common sense position and consensus in terms of what needs to be done, I think that's beneficial. I do think the ultimate goal is to find a way in which the U.S. Steel business and the Mon Valley can stay here in our area, but also the plants they have in other parts of the country that we're able to benefit certainly the workers and also certainly benefit the environment with the investments that need to be made. So we're talking about multi-billion-dollar investments in cleaning these facilities up and be able to produce a more clean, I would say, steel-making process, which I think is going to benefit a lot of folks, and it'll keep those jobs here. And I think that's what we all want to see and be able to have these steel being continued to be made here in the Mon Valley and across the country. So I'm excited about it as it gets closer. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter to me who ends up owning it per se, but what's important is that the steel workers, for example, know that their jobs are going to be safe and secure going forward for a number of years, and that the investments are going to be made. And I think that's something that's really important. So I'm hopeful that this can bring a conclusion to this long sought discussion.
All right, let's get to the reason why you're here. These cuts. I'm going to give Josh Shapiro credit. He's already speaking up, and legal action is on his mind. Cory Booker, I think, made every American proud, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, to do what he did, that marathon speech. And I watched as much of it as I could. But some of the things that he was saying, I think a lot of the American people, especially those who have lost their job and some of those who are experiencing funding cuts, feel the same way. And we're seeing it here from places of higher learning to the Port Authority to healthcare workers and more. So your thoughts on the madness about all of these cuts in the nation's capital with the president and Doge. Go ahead, please.
Well, Rob, I think you used the word madness, and that's exactly what we see taking place. And it's chaos that's across this country, and individuals are being impacted and being harmed by the actions of Musk and President Trump, and what things they're doing through the Doge program, department. It's harmful to people. It's misguided. And quite frankly, it's illogical and not well thought out. So that's the frustrating part that we have with it. It'd be one thing to be able to say that a new administration comes in and assesses these different agencies. That's not what happened here. They simply went to the chopping block and started cutting programs without any foresight in terms of how these programs would be administered and who these people are and what they would be working on. So we're very concerned about the continuation of these type of things that are taking place. I do think that Governor Shapiro is correct in the things that he's done in terms of trying to, join other states going to court to prevent these cuts, particularly in the human service program, where we're joining about 23 or so other states to push back and say these are important programs that we utilize in our country, and we want these resources to be unfrozen, so to speak, and be delivered to the people who committed to them. They've been committed to these agencies to be able to provide human services, which I think is extremely important. The other part of it is that we need to have some certainty what's going to happen going forward. We're in the middle of our budget process, and we have no idea what's going to be making its way to Pennsylvania. For example, in the Department of Education at the federal level, dismantling that agency. We're talking about $5 billion that Pennsylvania receives from the federal government in that space. To say that maybe they may send it to the states to be able to distribute, we're not prepared for that, and it's not going to be able to be something that's going to be done along those lines. And the other question is whether or not we'll receive that full $5 billion. And if we don't, the local taxpayers are going to be the ones who have to make up the difference, especially in the areas of special education and many of the title programs, particularly Title I and some others. So we're very much concerned about what's taking place in a variety of these areas: human services, education. The biggest concern that we have is Social Security, for the impact that Social Security cuts are going to have and changes. People are calling our office along those lines. The financial impact of Medicaid cuts that have been talked about will have a direct impact on our ability in terms of the revenue side of our equation in Harrisburg. And Rob, remember, our budget, the governor proposed a $51 billion budget. That's also matched with $51 billion or so in federal dollars that make their way to Pennsylvania, as well as about $20 billion in other revenues that come in from different agencies and the like in different variety of different ways. So that's a major portion of our general appropriation that we rely upon, and we simply don't know how much of that will make its way to Pennsylvania. And anything that we don't receive that we typically receive or we budgeted for over the course of the past couple of years, we got to find a way to make it up or make cuts. And I think that's what you're going to end up seeing because there's not really a will to be able to grow revenues in Pennsylvania. We think we need to take steps to be able to address that in a variety of ways. But our colleagues on the other side of the aisle who have been completely silent on what's taking place over the course of the past several years. It's remarkable how deafening the silence is in terms of not wanting to challenge the Trump administration and Musk what they're doing. So we need to push forward, and we're going to continue to do that to ensure that we have appropriate resources for Pennsylvania to be able to make sure these programs are going to continue going forward.
So in closing, State Senator Jay Costa, your colleagues, both state representatives and state senators, and of course the governor in Harrisburg, keeping a close eye on what's happening in Washington?
Oh, there's no question we are on a regular basis, and we're in communication with the governor's office at every step of the way. They can inform us of what steps they're taking or they plan to take, but we're also from a budgetary position, managing what needs to be done through the last 3 months of our budget, for example, because we're bringing that to close. But more importantly, as we start to think about the 25-26 budget that we need to put into place by the end of June 30th, that's very much a concern as well. So we're struggling right now. We don't know exactly what things are going to look like. And we're waiting to see as the chaos continues to flow out of Washington, D.C. and the negative impact it's having on people. The tariffs, of course, are something that I think are impacting people, the quality of lives and the increased cost of people around the Commonwealth. I mean, this is not what folks signed up for. I think they thought a more thoughtful approach to many of these things in this trade war that we're now engaged in. It's going to be harmful for folks, and all it's going to do is cause increase in cost. And to wait till maybe the tariffs may impact new manufacturing and new businesses to open up here in Pennsylvania, it's going to be years before these things can take place. We simply don't have the time, and people cannot afford to be able to deal with the cost increases they're going to be dealing with all across the spectrum of things, whether they're buying cars, whether they're buying groceries, whether they're paying for services. Those increases are all going to be tied directly to the tariffs that are in place. And that's frightening a lot of people, I can tell you that.
All right, State Senator Jay Costa, thank you so much for joining us tonight, Senator. Thank you.
Rob, always my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right, your phone. All right, bye-bye.